Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Rdunae R2XBK. This watch is available from Rdunae official store on AliExpress for €227. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets for the piece. So the watch comes in this black plastic pelican style case. I'll show you the interior. As you can see, both halves of the pelican case are lined with two foam panels, which does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping from any damage. I like these pelican style cases. They're durable, very practical, and they make a refreshing change from the default option of using a cardboard watch box. With regards to other items, this is the warranty card, and as you can see, the reverse is stamped and filled in with the date of purchase and the reference number of the piece, R2XBK. I'm pleased to report the watch is covered by a 12-month international warranty. This is the owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English and they detail the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic. One also gets this spring bar tool, two-prong fork at one end, push pin at the other end, and one also gets two spring bars, which is good. So nice to get this included with the watch. And lastly, one also gets this Rdunae tag. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Rdunae R2XBK. The watch is clearly an homage to the Seiko Willard Turtle from the 1970s. So very similar proportions to the Willard Turtle. We have a 44.3mm case diameter. We have a 47.5mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 12.9mm and a lug width of 19mm. The resin strap tapers slightly from 19mm at the lugs down to the buckle and tang. Sterile buckle and tang made from solid 316L grade stainless steel, mirror polished to a high standard, nice heavy gauge of metal. However, at this price point, €227, I would like to see the buckle engraved either with the Rdunae brand emblem or alternatively Rdunae brand logo. To get a sterile buckle at this price point is a cost-cutting measure and disappointing. Two keepers on the strap, both slide. So I'll show you the underside to the resin strap. As you can see, it's got a nice three-dimensional textured finish, and I like it. It's got a nice smooth profile to it, but the vents allow for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist and air circulation, so it is a very good design. Although personally, I think this would look better on a textured strap, such as a NATO, a Kajora strap, or alternatively a waffle strap. I really think that this Kit Kat style strap, as they're referred to, doesn't complement the piece. Now, the negative of this strap is it's made from resin, and it feels very similar to the stiff resin used on Casio digital watches. Resin straps are acceptable on Casio digital watches such as the F91W, which costs €10, but this is €227, and really one would expect either an FKM rubber strap or alternatively one would expect a soft silicone rubber strap. The problem with the resin strap is it's very stiff. It feels like it's plastic, rather like a digital watch, rather than it being soft and supple silicone rubber, which would be far more comfortable. So it's an uncomfortable strap. Now the other thing to note is this has a 19mm lug width, which is odd. The contemporary industry standard is 20 or 22mm, especially on a 44mm head of the piece. Now I appreciate this is true to the original Willard from the 1970s, which did have a 19mm lug width. There are a plethora of Willard homages from Heimdallr, Ali's Dive and Steel Dive respectively, and this is the truest to the original because it has the original proportions 19mm, but I think they would have made a correct decision if they had scaled up the dimension to 20, because the problem with the 19mm lug width is it means that one's limited if one wants to change this strap to upgrade it to an FKM rubber strap or a silicone rubber strap. There aren't as many options in 19, it's an odd size. 20 would have meant more options. With regards to the case back, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, laser etched with the turtle, and we've also got the specification. Mirror polishing is very good, and the milled slots are also finished to a good standard. No sharp edges, no burrs. Underside of the tonneau turtle case is brushed satin finish to a high standard. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a double dome sapphire crystal with blue tinted AR coating. Nice large bevel to the edge of the double dome crystal, which catches the light. And I like the blue tint of the AR coating. It's got a very aesthetically pleasing blue hue to it. Does a good job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished baton hands and the silver applied indices. In terms of the dial execution, it's very well done. The quality of the indices are finished to a high standard, and the silver framing of the date complication at 3 is done very well. So the mirror polishing to the indices and also the hands is of a high standard. And in terms of dial layout, it's very true to the original 1970s Willard Turtle, because we have water 150 metres proof. Now in reality, I'm 100% confident this would withstand 200 metres of hermetic seal, but 150 was the original Willard Turtle's water resistance rating in the 1970s. So I can understand that Rdunae are trying to keep this close to the original with a 19mm lug width and putting water 150 metres proof on the dial as per the original. So I think that this is the truest version if you're looking for an homage to the 1970 Seiko Willard due to the 150 metres rating. The other thing they've done with regards to the screw down crown is they've copied the original Willard's lock with the arrow. Now this doesn't actually make sense on this watch, because if you look closely at the crown you can see the arrowhead is pointing towards anti-clockwise for lock. But this is a screw down crown, and to lock it down it actually screws down clockwise. So to be correct, the arrowhead should be clockwise rather than anti-clockwise, but however one can be magnanimous about this, because the original 1970s Willard Turtle did have the same engraving lock with the arrowhead pointing anti-clockwise, because it didn't have a screw down crown. It actually had a pin, and the crown locked into the pin, and those pins often sheared off the case. So one can be forgiving and magnanimous because it is true to the original, and I appreciate they're trying to keep this a very close homage to the original 1970s Willard. So I like the dial execution, symmetry is good, legibility is good, and I also like the traffic lights tip to the sweeping second hand as per the original 1970s Willard. So it's a very good homage to it. Aluminium bezel insert. Now the negative is it's not as scratch resistant as ceramic, but however it does fit the vintage aesthetic of a 1970s Willard homage, and we've got a loom pip. So well finished. I like the metallic look of it. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's got a matte finish to the bezel insert. The coin edge finished bezel is very nicely finished, and I like it. It's very grippy and tactile, and it catches the light. Very well finished. Just a very good looking coin edge finished bezel. 120 click unidirectional bezel, so let's test the bezel action. Got a nice light resistance to it. It feels very similar to a Seiko bezel if you're familiar with the SKX 007 or the SRP 777 Turtle, for example. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever, but however we do have half a click of back play, which is a disappointment, and I'm just going to check it in 4 positions around the bezel. Yes, we've got half a click of back play all the way around the bezel. So there's room for improvement with regards to the build quality and the quality control of the 120 click unidirectional bezel. Nice loud audible click, so I'll just check the alignment. And it's aligned correctly. The loom pip and triangle at 12 o'clock align correctly with the 12 o'clock indices on the dial. So the alignment is correct, but it does have half a click of back play, no lateral side-to-side play. So that's something to note. There is room for improvement on the bezel execution. So let's test the screw down crown execution. Now, as I've discussed, this is a very faithful copy of the original Willard Turtle's screw down crown, because we have the lock and the arrow in the wrong direction. But if you look, it does have the same knurled finish to it, the very same profile as the original 1970s Willard Turtle, so I do like that. Nice firm resistance to the threading of the screw down crown. It feels silky smooth, but one can feel the friction of the O-rings. There's one O-ring inside the crown and one O-ring inside the stainless steel crown tube, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 150 metres, but as I've discussed, I'm confident the real water resistance rating is 200 metres. So in the first click position, we've got the quick set complication for the date. Rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the quick set dates complication. So characteristic of the NH35A, it's got a nice positive click, and I like the way the date clicks over to the next day. It's got that reassuring positive click. Pulling it out to the second click hacks the movement. We're now in the time setting position, and if you look at the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. Nice firm resistance to the NH35A. I like the friction of the gearing. It's a good solid movement, no back play clockwise and anti-clockwise. Absolute pleasure to set the time. Pushing it back in's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. So it's got a nice firm spring-loaded action to the NH35A. One's got to push in the screw-down crown to get the thread to pick up, but it does pick up immediately. So it's a very well executed screw-down crown, and I really like the feeling of it. One can feel the friction of the O-rings, but it feels solid, and I like the smooth threading, so it's very well executed. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I'm pleased to report it does fit my 8-inch wrist. I'm often critical in reviews of watch straps and bracelets being a fraction too short, but as you can see, I can in fact engage the end of the strap in the two sliding keepers, so it will fit up to a maximum 8-inch wrist. And as you can see, the tonneau turtle K-shape is a very snug fit to the wrist. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug-to-lug measurement, regardless of whether you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. At 47.5 lug-to-lug, it's very close to being the perfect 48mm. The tonneau K-shape is absolutely beautiful. I love the way it curves around the wrist rather than sitting on the wrist. So very snug, but however, at 44.3, this is clearly best suited to a collector with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches because it does wear with wrist presence. Now, the benefit of it being on a 19mm strap is that it does feel very lightweight and comfortable rather than being top heavy. It's only 99 grams, but however, the resin strap does feel very stiff. It doesn't flex, it's not very comfortable, it's not very supple. So I think the comfort level of this piece could be further enhanced if one upgraded the strap to a silicone rubber or alternatively FKM rubber strap, which is more soft and supple. Now, if you're looking for the truest homage to the original 1970s Willard, this does satisfy because the 19mm odd lug width does actually look very close to the original. And I love the proportions. 44.3 by 47.5 is very close to the original Willard Turtle. Now, it's only 12.9mm thick, which is very good because it easily slips underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So, although it does wear with wrist presence, it is easily going to slip underneath a shirt cuff, so it is a practical daily wear piece. 99 grams is very comfortable to wear for long periods of time. It's just a disappointment that the resin strap is so stiff, like a Casio digital watch. Had they put this on a silicone rubber strap, it really would be far more comfortable. Right, so let's do a lume test, and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This is clearly C3 Superluminova, and I'm pleased to see they haven't used any cost-cutting measures such as Pagani Design and using Luminova. This is clearly Superluminova. C3 is one of my personal favourites due to the characteristic green tone, which replicates the tritium lume which was used in the 1970s on the original Turtle. The original Willard used Seiko Lumibrights, but of course it was very close to tritium in terms of performance. It had a characteristic green tone like this, so this works very well as a Willard homage. The lume pip is glowing brightly on the aluminium bezel insert, and also the dial layout is very good. I like the symmetry of it, and the match of the green tone on the lume pip, the applied indices and the baton hands is very good. Also like the traffic light tip to the sweeping second hand. As you can see, it's loomed very well. One can clearly see the second hand sweeping around the dial. The orientation is very good. One can clearly orientate where 12 o'clock is due to the double applied indices at 12. So I really like it, and as you can see, it's glowing very brightly, and it's also continuing to glow for a good length of time. So this is 10 out of 10 C3 Superluminova performance. I really am impressed with it. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko NH35A automatic. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse automatic movement. It has 24 joules. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. Hand winding and hacking are useful complications. The stated accuracy of the NH35A is -20 to +40 seconds per day. So a rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that this one is running consistently at plus 10 seconds per day, which is well within the minus 20 to plus 40 stated accuracy. Plus 10 is acceptable for an NH35A, however it can even be regulated to better accuracy, such as plus or minus 5 seconds per day. So correct choice of movements. I like the NH35A because of its reliability, its accuracy, and also the fact it has hand binding and hacking, which are useful complications. I think it's the right choice for this movement and right choice for this piece. Now, at 12.9mm thick, it's also very good proportions, and often NH35A automatic powered pieces are in excess of 13mm, so Rdunae deserve credit for getting this just under 13 at 12.9. It's very good for a 44.3mm head of the piece. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. Really, to evaluate this piece, one has to consider the quality of the finishing to the bezel, the head of the piece, and the screw-down case back. The quality of the mirror polishing to the undercut on the flanks is done to a flawless finish. Brush satin finishing is very good, no sharp edges, no burrs. The quality of the finishing to the aluminium bezel insert is excellent, and the coin edge finishing to the solid stainless steel bezel is also excellent. So mirror polishing to the underside of the screw down case back and also the brush satin finishing to the underside to the head of the piece are all outstanding, and screw down crown execution is good. However, there is a QC issue with regards to the half a click of backplate on the bezel, and I think there's room for improvements with regards to the build quality of the bezel, so they need to tighten up the backplate in the bezel to improve it, but the screw down crown is excellent. Now 227 is the euro price point of this piece, and it does face some stiff competition from Alice Dive, Steel Dive and Heimdallr. The SD 1970 from Steel Dive is one of the greatest Willard homages, and therefore this competes directly with the SD 1970. So really, I think that the price point is too high. I would describe €227 as expensive. I think that this is okay, but however, to make this more competitive, Rdunae need to reduce the price of this R2XBK to below €200 to compete with Heimdallr and also Steel Dive. With regards to quality, I think the quality is also okay. I'm not going to say it's good, I'm not going to say it's excellent because of the half a click of bezel backplay. And the other thing I dislike about this in terms of quality is the resin strap. This is a clear cost-cutting measure. Silicone rubber straps are inexpensive on AliExpress, and really to use a resin strap like this, which one would expect on a digital watch such as a Casio, it really is a cost-cutting measure. Resin straps are less expensive to produce than silicone rubber or FKM rubber, and I think at €227 this kind of resin strap is wholly unacceptable. The other disappointment really is the 19mm. Yes, I appreciate it's true to the original, but to be practical, the contemporary size would be 20mm, and I think they've made a mistake on this. They should have used a 20mm lug width. So okay quality, okay value, but as I've discussed, this does face some stiff competition from Heimdallr, Alice Dive and Steel Dive, and the Steel Dive SD 1970 is one of the most popular Willard homages, so that's something to consider. So I'm going to recommend it to you for your consideration, but bear in mind the shortcomings. Hope you've enjoyed my review of the Rdunae R2XBK. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.